Hey folks, welcome to another Water Trek 360. I'm back here in Captain's Cove in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and today we're going to be doing an underappreciated little reef that I've done hundreds and hundreds of times. It's called Penfield Reef, or Penfield Light, with an area commonly known around here as the Cows. Let's go have some fun. Penfield Reef is a shoal that extends more than a mile from Penfield Beach in Fairfield, Connecticut, and has long been a scourge to mariners traveling Long Island Sound or heading to the harbors at Black Rock in Bridgeport. It's about a 20-minute boat ride out of Captain's Cove Marina in Black Rock. There are local dive boats that run charters to the reef. I will leave a link in the description for those. History shows that in the 1600s, this shoal used to be above water as part of the Thompson's Peninsula and later Lewis's Island, and supported the pasturing of cattle, hence the names Little Cows and Big Cows for the two prominent rocky parts of the shoal. As the story goes, the island was connected by a strip of land with a breastwork of flat and cobbled stones. These were removed by shipping interests from Southport and Black Rock harbors for ballast stones. The loss of the breakwater and support stones led to its erosion. Records show that within 100 years of settlement, by the 1700s, the peninsula was gone, and by 1750, so was the island. These maps, one from 1702 and the other from 1777, show it as a hammock, a term indicating the sling-like shape of the reef with portions exposed at low tide. In 1864, the Hudson River steamer Rip Van Winkle was being leveraged for excursions. Unfamiliar with the waters, she ran into the rocks with a large number of passengers. Luckily, no one was hurt and she wasn't seriously damaged. Over the next few years, more vessels ran aground, with 4 in the winter of 1866 and 1867 alone. Some wealthy local merchants, including George Wells, who wanted to build a resort hotel, aggressively petitioned for a lighthouse. It paid off. In January 1874, Penfield Light officially began operating as a lighthouse. The famed George Hotel in Black Rock Harbor, built by architects William and George Gould for Mr. Wells, opened just a couple months later, in the spring of 1874. She operated continuously with the keeper until 1971 when she was automated. In 2007, she came under the National Historic Lighthouse Preservation Act of 2000. She went up for auction in 2011, purchased in 2016, but there were issues. It went back up for auction in May of 2023. There's normally a pair of osprey that nest on a light tower. It's always fun to see them hunt. The lighthouse is reported to be haunted by the ghost of keeper Frederick A. Jordan, who drowned December 22, 1916, rowing ashore in a winter gale. Several accounts by subsequent keepers, as well as accounts from boaters, especially the one in 1942, of 2 boys being saved by the Jordan ghost after capsizing near the reef. It's a little hard to see in this video, but the reef runs in a northeasterly direction from the lighthouse up to the spindle. This was a tall navigation marker that was lost in storms many years ago. You can still see the platform at low tide. This is just to the west of the green channel marker. If you're going to drop anchor in this area, be aware there's a large power cable that runs from Fairweather Light to Penfield Light. We routinely recover anchors here from unlucky boaters. If you are going to dive here, there are several distinct sections to the reef. The most popular dive sites are in and around the lighthouse itself and the reef sections that stretch outwards toward the Cows. As you see in some of these side scan images, there are many distinct rock formations in addition to the primary reef. Most divers stay to the south and eastern side of the reef. The water depth around the reef ranges from 20 to 30 feet depending upon tide. You might hit a max of 35 feet at full moon high tide in a couple of areas. Currents can get quite strong and it's best to dive near slack tide. Due to the currents, especially outgoing, visibility can be very limited. If you're going to shoot video in Long Island Sound, the thing to remember is that the heavy particulate matter and silt in the water wreaks havoc on focus capability, especially with an iPhone. The area is strewn with varying sizes of boulders and rocks. Again, depending upon the time of year, there's plenty of red and green algae and some seagrasses. There are hundreds of different kinds of seaweed and algae that can be found in Long Island Sound. This area has a lush blanket covering many of the boulders. You never know what you might find in amongst the rocks. This has long been a popular site for fishermen. And even after the lighthouse went into service, there were and still are vessels that have struck the reef. One of the biggest was in September of 1916 when 9 barges of the Blue Line Company grounded on the reef. And what do we have here? A little gift from the gods. Don't know what it is, but apothecary or ink bottle. Who knows? The western side of the light has a much sandier bottom. It too has large boulders, but not as many as the eastern and northern portions of the reef. There are usually quite a few fish, plenty of burgals. You will see the occasional fluke, but not as many winter flounder as that population has declined. It's been 20 years since I've seen one of these guys at Penfield. The lobster population crashed in the early 2000s. It wasn't until recently that I actually saw one caught at another location about 20 miles away. First lobster I've seen in Long Island Sound in years. Nice one too, he's a good size. Yeah. Very nice, very nice. You still find the occasional ghost pot. There is a movement to retrieve these, but if it's busted open already and has marine life growing on it, we leave it. If we don't have a lift bag, we at least break them open. Foam jellies are usually in abundance. Occasionally in August and September, you'll see these lion's mane jellyfish. We don't see as many as we used to. I'm not sure whether it's due to the sound getting warmer. The area called the Cows is where you'll mostly find blackfish, depending upon time of year. One of the more noticeable features on many of the boulders is that they are covered in sponges. What you are seeing here, I believe, is the yellow boring sponge, or Cleona celata. This particular sponge covers so many of the rocks, in some places it looks like carpeting. There are many other sponges as well, like the Haliclona oculata, or mermaid's hand. There are plenty of orange and red varieties as well. I believe this is the red beard sea sponge. I am not sure what these next two are. I am still researching with various biologists. I believe this is some kind of codium fragile or dead man's fingers. This yellow one may be an Acanthella mastophora. You can see it has these protruding excurrent pores. That's the white transparent membrane that juts out. While I've seen plenty of Irish moss seaweed like this before, this is the first time I witnessed these iridescent blue spots at the end of the fronds. My understanding is that some seaweeds have protective coatings called a cuticle at the tip of the fronds. The cuticle has several layers that bend and reflect light, potentially to protect them from the sun's ultraviolet radiation at low tide. There's always plenty of clams. It's a lot of fun to open up one or two and feed them to the fish. Believe it or not, we do get sea urchins. As I mentioned, visibility and currents can be strong. I strongly suggest using a line reel when boat diving and always use a float flag if drift diving. If you are lucky, I mean really lucky, you may get to see one of these guys. My favorite fish to find is the oyster toadfish, scientifically Opsenus tau. The males of this elusive fish make these foghorn type sounds, occasionally a grunting sound, or even one that sounds like a drum. There is research that suggests heavy boat traffic can affect the male's mating call sequence and is impacting the population. Regardless, these guys are always a treat to see. If you're interested in diving in the area, not far from Penfield Reef, almost due south, lies the wreck of the Mary Alice. It sank in 55 feet of water in 1918. Check out my video on that wreck for more information. Oh man, I got a couple of shots of oyster toadfish. I hope they come out. Hope you like that clip. I know the industry has changed and a lot of people like to dive only in blue warm water, but I am a proponent of diving where you live. I'm very fortunate to have this estuary called Long Island Sound right in my backyard that I can dive basically whenever I want. If you ever get up this way, do check it out. Well, I am working on a few more videos, so do stay tuned for those. I hope you're getting an opportunity to dive. Please stay safe, plan your dive, dive your plan. And until the next time I see you, remember, my friends, go explore, get wet,